My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you're here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Well, Jesus, as always, praying to make this time of prayer fruitful. Just 10 short minutes. But 10 short minutes that can open us up to many different avenues of prayer, and to spend these moments with an eye to the rest of the day, the rest of the week, standing as we do at the start of this week. We just give that to you, Jesus, and pray that this time of prayer will bear fruit even into the week, into moments whenever we will need you, moments whenever we will need to use the gift of faith. And I say that very deliberately because the time that I want to spend now, Jesus, in this meditation is based on the second reading of the Mass today. That's a bit random, perhaps. We don't often think about the second reading. Sometimes we barely even take notice of it. We've had the first reading, which sort of pricks our attention, the Psalm, and then we're just getting ready for the Gospel. So perhaps the second reading at times just slips away and we don't get to get all of the fruit out of it that we could. But today's second reading from the letter to the Hebrews is wonderful. And it sets before us the marvelous character of Abraham and his faith. And so that's an invitation to us just to deepen our understanding of the gift of faith and to pray for it, not just for ourselves, but for those who don't have it. That we really remember, of course, that faith is a gift. Faith is not an automatic thing, and we can lose it very quickly. In the same way that if we are careless with any other gift that we have, any material possession that we have, we will lose it. Think about learning a language. You spend all that time and that effort learning those verbs and how to conjugate them, and you never practice that language. Well, you can't expect that you will just bounce into fluent conversation in years to come. No. Faith is something that requires our personal effort. It's something that we have to welcome as a gift. But what is faith? Well, the letter to the Hebrews gives us a lovely little indication as to what that faith is. It is a guarantee that the blessings that we hope for will prove the existence of the realities that at present remain unseen. So let's put it very basic. Heaven. Maybe at times whenever we are, struggling, and maybe we are thinking about the difficulties that we experience in this life, well, maybe the thought of heaven might give us just a bit of a courage to get through, to think, well, yeah, maybe this particular moment of my life is difficult, but I look forward to a time, Jesus, whenever I will see you face to face. Well, that hope to see you face to face is grounded in the reality of faith, that I know that promise that you have made to me, Jesus, as a result of my baptism, as a result of the Christian vocation that I have, that you're calling me ever closer to you in this life, but eternally in the next. Well, I have the faith, Jesus, that hope will be grounded in reality. Maybe we are thinking about kind of things very particular, We're thinking about, exams coming up, or results, or what we're going to do after the summer. We maybe need to have that gift of faith to know that everything's going to work out okay, that the promises that you have made to us in your word, that you love us, that you want our good, we have the faith to understand that that's actually grounded in a reality. That I believe, Jesus, that you want what is best for me. You want what is ordered for my holiness and for my sanctification. And that the plan that you have for me, Jesus, is to bring me to that point. And I trust in that through the gift of faith, because it's grounded in a reality. It's not just a kind of a pie in the sky thing, like, oh, well, I hope all things will work out. No, I have faith. I have a gift to know that hope isn't just kind of, it's not just kind of magic, or it's just kind of going to work out maybe. No, it really will, because it's a promise that you have made, and I trust in that promise. And the figure of Abraham is a kind of a towering example of this. And the letter to the Hebrews gives us the faith of Abraham, this man who, through faith, obeyed the call to leave his own country, to go to the promised land, to go as a foreigner, to live as a stranger, which, is difficult in today's language. If we think about moving to another city or moving to another country or to another continent, that requires a lot of effort on our part, and also having to adapt and cope with the culture. Well, how much more in the time of Abraham, whenever he was literally going to an unknown. Perhaps he had heard stories of the land of Canaan. Maybe he had heard the people, but did he know the language? I very much doubt it. Did he know what he was going to find when he got there? What the food was going to be like? What resources were going to be available to him and to his wife? We know that he was already kind of advanced in age. No, I don't think he knew any of those practical things. But he had the faith to know that it was all going to work out, because that is what you asked of him. And so we have this wonderful example of Abraham obeying the call to go forth and to settle. So let's keep that in mind. Going forth beyond ourselves and to settle in a place which is of your choosing. And the letter continues to kind of to back up this faith of Abraham through the example of Sarah, his wife. She was barren. She couldn't have any children. And yet he obeys this call that he will be fruitful through Sarah. That her sterility, in a sense, is not going to be an obstacle to this promise of fruitfulness that God made to Abraham. And so together with Sarah, he sets forth, and they trust, and they have faith. Now, I know that there are many people who are starting new jobs at this time, or maybe beginning a new course of studies, or maybe going to university or college for the first time in a few weeks. And, well, maybe we have to have that faith of Abraham to go forth, to settle, and to be fruitful. And to not allow our fears to get in the way, but to have the gift of faith to battle through all of those things. Going forth, settling, being fruitful. Now, just yesterday, I was on a boat going to a little island, which is just to the north of Ireland. And there's a little church in that island. It's part of a parish. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And coming back from the island, I could see the mainland, beautiful in the kind of the evening sun. And you could see the green hills. It just was so wonderful. But what it made me think of was those kind of early missionaries who went forth from Ireland into the continent, into recesses of the world that they had only ever heard about in books or legends, in order to preach the gospel. A little bit like Abraham. And looking at these green fields so far away, you couldn't even pick out any of the houses or any of the settlements. You say, well, look, this is probably the vision that they had as they were arriving to these places for the first time. A new land, and not knowing what they were going to face there. But what were they armed with? They were armed with the conviction of the Catholic faith and the faith in the promises of God, that they would be fulfilled if they went forth, if they preached the gospel. And these two things just stuck in my mind. The conviction of faith and the belief in the promises that God had made to them. And I was thinking about, well, what if I was kind of arriving into the mainland now and I had to go and preach the gospel to all of these people? It's a challenge to us. Would we have had the same courage as those missionaries of the past? Well, look, today we are not kind of going to new continents in order to preach the gospel, but maybe going into a staff room or a sitting room of your own home or a study hall where your friends are, or wherever it is. That's the mission field. And we want to be armed with those same things. Conviction in the Catholic faith that this is true, that this has been revealed to us by you, Jesus, and taught by your church faithfully, guided by the Holy Spirit. And the faith to trust in the promises of God. Our Lady, give us the gift of faith through your Son, Jesus. Help us to really have the conviction of faith, to go forth into this week and to bear fruit with our faith. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections and inspirations that you have communicated to me during this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.